My name is Rashid Khan. I am 34 years old. And on August 15, 2019 at exactly dawn, I was supposed to be decapitated in the center of Kandahar by the very men I once commanded. I sit in this concrete cell 2 feet beneath the earth, and the air tastes like rust and my own fear. The walls are damp. Cold seeps through the thin fabric of what used to be my uniform but is now just rags stained with my own blood. Above me I hear boots. Heavy. Deliberate. They are preparing the blade. In 6 hours, my head will be separated from my body in front of a cheering crowd, and they will call it justice. They will call it the will of Allah. But let me tell you something they don't know. Something impossible. Something that will sound insane to you until you hear the whole story. I deserve this death. Every second of it. For 12 years I was a Taliban commander. Not a foot soldier. Not a recruit. A commander responsible for operations across 3 provinces. I have ordered executions. I have pulled triggers. I have burned villages suspected of harboring infidels. I have done things in the name of Allah that I believed would guarantee me paradise. And for 12 years I was slowly dying inside. Let me take you back. Not to this cell. Not to this night before my execution. But to the beginning. To the boy who became a jihadist before he even understood what that word meant. I was born in 1985 in a village outside Kandahar where the sound of Soviet helicopters was as common as the call to prayer. My father fought against the Russians. My uncles fought. My older brothers fought. In my family, becoming a mujahideen warrior wasn't a choice, it was destiny written in blood and dust. I held my first AK-47 when I was 16 years old. The metal was warm from the Afghan sun, heavier than I expected, and my father's hand on my shoulder felt like both blessing and burden. He whispered in my ear, "You will bring honor to our family. You will fight for Allah. You will never compromise." By the time I was 22, I was leading men twice my age into battle. The Taliban saw something in me, absolute conviction, ruthless efficiency, unwavering faith in our cause. I memorized vast portions of the Quran. I led prayers 5 times a day. I fasted with perfect discipline during Ramadan, the holy month where Muslims abstain from food and drink from dawn until sunset. I performed wudu before each prayer, the ritual washing of hands, mouth, nose, face, arms, head, ears and feet that Muslims must complete to purify themselves. But even as the water ran cold over my skin in the pre-dawn darkness, I felt nothing inside. Nothing but emptiness. I had power. 4 wives chosen for me by my family. A fortified compound with guards at every entrance. Respect that made grown men lower their eyes when I passed. I could snap my fingers and have a village elder brought before me in chains. I could declare someone an enemy of Islam, and they would be dead by sunset. Have you ever had everything the world says should make you complete and still felt like you were dying inside? I had gold. I had authority. I had paradise promised to me by every imam who praised my jihad. But at night, when the compound was silent and my wives were asleep, I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, and the faces would come. The faces of the people I had killed. Most of them blur together now, enemies, traitors, spies, collaborators. We didn't ask many questions. Suspicion was enough. Fear was enough. But there was one face I could never forget. His name was Jamal. He was 19 years old. Thin. Frightened. Accused of converting to Christianity and sharing his faith with others in his village. In our world, apostasy, leaving Islam, carries only one sentence: death. They brought him before me in the spring of 2018. His hands were bound behind his back. His face was already swollen from beatings. He could barely stand. My men wanted to stone him according to Sharia law, but I decided a bullet would be more efficient. I remember walking up to him. I remember pressing the barrel of my pistol against his forehead. I remember his eyes, not angry, not hateful. Just sad. Deeply, impossibly sad. He looked at me and said in Dari, our language, "Jesus loves you, Commander. He died for you. And I will see him in a few moments. I wish you could know the peace I have." I pulled the trigger. But his words stayed in my head like shrapnel I couldn't extract. After that day the nightmares began. Every night I would see Jamal's eyes. Sometimes in my dreams he would just stare at me. Sometimes he would repeat those words, "Jesus loves you, Commander." Sometimes he would be standing next to a man dressed in white with wounds in his hands. I tried everything to stop the dreams. I increased my prayers to 7 times a day. I went on more operations thinking that action would silence my mind. I had an imam come to my compound to perform ruqya, an Islamic exorcism ritual to remove evil spirits. He recited verses from the Quran over me for hours, burning incense, sprinkling water, The dreams only got worse, then came the fever. It was July 2018, brutally hot even by Afghan standards. We had just returned from a raid on a village suspected of hiding American informants. 3 people died. 2 were guilty. One was a 12-year-old boy who was simply in the wrong room. That night, my temperature spiked to 104 degrees. My wives brought cold water, but I was shaking so violently I couldn't drink. I fell into a sleep that felt more like drowning, and that's when I saw him. The room in my dream was filled with light, not yellow like firelight, not white like moonlight, but gold like sunrise on clean water. And standing at the foot of my bed was a man I had never met but somehow recognized. He wore simple white robes. His face was kind but piercing. And his hands had holes straight through them, like something had been driven through the flesh. He spoke my name. Rashid. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Terror and awe hit me simultaneously. Rashid, why do you persecute those who are mine? His voice wasn't angry. It was sad. The same sadness I had seen in Jamal's eyes. I tried to say, "Who are you?" but no words came out. He stepped closer. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the one Jamal told you about. I am Jesus, and I died for you too. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat despite the fever. My youngest wife rushed in asking what was wrong. I told her it was just the fever. Just a nightmare. But I knew it wasn't that. If you're watching this and you've never had an encounter with the supernatural, this might sound like madness or hallucination. But I'm telling you, I was awake in that dream in a way I had never been awake in my actual life. Every detail was sharp. Every word was clear. And the presence of that man, Jesus, was more real than the concrete floor beneath me right now. That I tried to convince myself it was Shaitan, Satan, deceiving me. That's what I was taught. Any dream that contradicts Islam is from the devil. But something felt wrong with that explanation. Because the dream came back. 3 nights later. The exact same dream. Jesus standing at my bed. The same question, why do you persecute those who are mine? And then a week after that, it happened a 3rd time. But this time he said something different. I died for you, Rashid. Stop killing my children. Come to me. When I woke from that 3rd dream, I was weeping. 33 years old. A Taliban commander who had seen men tortured and never flinched. And I was crying like a child. Something inside me had cracked open. Over the next 2 weeks, I couldn't function the same way. During operations, I would hesitate. When my men brought prisoners accused of apostasy or collaboration, I would find excuses to delay their executions. My second-in-command started asking questions. My wives noticed I barely ate. I was having a crisis of faith, but not a crisis that made me doubt God. A crisis that made me wonder if I had been serving the wrong one my entire life. If you're still watching, I need you to do something for me. I need you to subscribe to this channel. Not because I benefit from it, I can't even access YouTube where I am now. But because there are thousands of stories like mine that the world needs to hear. Stories of people who encountered Jesus in impossible places. If this testimony is touching something in your heart right now, click that subscribe button. You need to hear what happens next. Because what happened next changed everything. 2 weeks after the 3rd dream, we raided a home in a village suspected of hiding Christian converts. It was a small house, poor, with dirt floors and holes in the roof. We found no people, they had fled, but we found something else. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard was a book wrapped in plastic. My men didn't look closely. They were busy ransacking the other rooms. But I picked it up. It was a Bible. Not in English or Arabic. In Dari. My language. I should have burned it immediately. That was protocol. Any Christian materials were to be destroyed and the owners executed. But I didn't. I tucked it inside my vest against my chest where no one could see. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my men would hear it. But they didn't notice. We left the village. We returned to my compound. And that night, after midnight, when my entire household was asleep, I lit a small lamp in my private room and opened the Bible for the first time. I turned to a section labeled Matthew, one of the books about Jesus' life. And I started reading. I read about a man who healed the sick without asking for payment. Who touched lepers that society had abandoned. Who ate with tax collectors and prostitutes and sinners. Who told his followers to love their enemies and pray for those who persecute them. Every page contradicted everything I had been taught about jihad. Every page confronted the violence I had justified as holy. But every page also spoke to the emptiness inside me. I read about Jesus forgiving a woman caught in adultery when the religious leaders wanted to stone her. I read about him weeping over a dead friend. I read about him willingly going to his death to pay for the sins of humanity. Could you imagine reading the very book you've been taught to hate, and finding in it the only words that have ever made your soul feel alive? For 3 weeks, I read that Bible in secret every night. I hid it in different places around my compound, wrapped in cloth under my mattress, buried in a box in the courtyard, tucked behind loose bricks in the wall. I was paranoid. Rightfully so. During the day I led prayers. I gave orders. I maintained the appearance of the faithful commander. But at night I was encountering a God who was nothing like what I had known. One night, after reading about Jesus' crucifixion, how he forgave the men who were killing him, I closed the Bible and did something I never thought I would do. I prayed to Jesus. Not in Arabic the way I had prayed for decades. Just in my own language, in my own words, barely a whisper in the darkness. Jesus, if you are real, if you really died for sinners, then I am the greatest sinner alive. I have killed your people. I have persecuted your name. If you can forgive me, show me. Please, show me the truth. That night I had another dream. Jesus was standing in a garden. The light was softer this time, like evening. He turned and looked at me and he smiled. I am the way, the truth, and the life, Rashid. No one comes to the Father except through me. You are forgiven. Follow me. I woke up with tears streaming down my face and a certainty burning in my chest that felt like fire and peace at the same time. I knew in that moment that Jesus was real, that he was the Son of God, that he had died for my sins, and that following him would cost me everything. I had no idea how fast everything would be taken. My second wife, Fatima, was the most devout of the four. She woke early for tahajjud, the optional pre-dawn prayer that only the most dedicated Muslims perform. She fasted extra days beyond Ramadan. She was proud to be married to a Taliban commander. And she was the one who found the Bible. I had hidden it under my mattress that night, planning to move it in the morning. But Fatima woke before dawn and decided to change the bedding as an act of service. When she lifted the mattress, the Bible fell onto the floor. I was in another room. I heard her scream. By the time I ran in, she was holding the Bible like it was a venomous snake, her face twisted in horror and rage. "What is this?" she shrieked. "What is this filth doing in our home? Under our bed?" I tried to calm her. Tried to take the book. Tried to explain. But there was no explanation that would satisfy her. Within an hour, she had gone to my older brother, Hamid, who was also a Taliban commander. Within 2 hours, Hamid had informed the local Shura, the Council of Taliban Leaders. Within 4 hours, I was summoned to an emergency meeting. I walked into that meeting knowing I would not walk out free. The room was full of men I had fought beside for over a decade. Men I had bled with. Men who had trusted me with their lives. Now they looked at me like I was a diseased animal. The leader of the Shura, Mullah Khalid, held up the Bible like evidence in a trial. "Rashid Khan, is this yours?" I could have denied it. Could have said Fatima was lying. Could have claimed I confiscated it from a raid and forgot to destroy it. But something in me was done with lies. "Yes," I said. "It's mine." The room exploded. Men shouting. Jumping to their feet. Hands reaching for weapons. Mullah Khalid raised his hand for silence. "Have you read this book?" "Yes." "And do you still believe in Allah and his Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him?" Here was the moment. The question every convert from Islam faces. The question that divides life from death. I looked around the room at faces I knew. Men I had led into battle. Men whose children played with my children. And I said, "I believe in Isa, in Jesus. I believe he is the Son of God. I believe he died for my sins and rose from the dead. And I believe he is the only way to be saved." Have you ever spoken a truth that you knew would destroy your entire life, but spoken it anyway because staying silent would destroy your soul? The silence that followed my confession lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then chaos. Hamid, my own brother, was the first to strike me. A fist to the side of my head that sent me sprawling. Then others joined. Kicks to my ribs. Blows to my back. I curled into a ball on the floor while men who once called me brother tried to beat the apostasy out of me. Mullah Khalid finally stopped them. Not out of mercy. Out of procedure. "This is a matter for a full trial," he said. "Take him to the holding cell. Inform his wives they are to divorce him immediately. His children are to disown him. All his property is forfeit to the movement." They dragged me through the streets of Kandahar in broad daylight. People I had known my entire life watched. Some spit on me. Some threw stones. Children I had seen grow up screamed, "Traitor! Infidel!" My 4 wives stood outside my compound as they took me past. All 4 had already signed divorce papers. Taliban law required it. A Muslim woman cannot be married to an apostate. They didn't even look at me. But my oldest son did. He was 13. Old enough to understand. Old enough to be trained in jihad himself. He looked me in the eyes. And he spit in my face. I was thrown into an underground cell in a building used for Taliban prisoners. Concrete walls 2 feet thick. A single steel door with a lock the size of my fist. No windows. One dim bulb that flickered and died after 2 hours. In the darkness, I could hear other prisoners moaning, praying, some screaming. I sat against the cold wall and realized I had lost everything. My position, gone. My family, gone. My reputation, destroyed. My future, measured in hours now, not years. The trial happened the next morning. I wasn't allowed to defend myself. The charges were read: apostasy, blasphemy, betrayal of the Islamic Emirate. 3 witnesses testified they had heard me speak Christian words. My brother Hamid testified he had seen me reading the Bible multiple times in secret. The verdict was unanimous and immediate: death by public beheading in 48 hours. They wanted time to spread the word, to make an example of me. A Taliban commander who betrayed Allah. This needed to be seen by everyone. I was taken back to the cell. The steel door slammed shut. The lock clicked. And I was alone. Have you ever faced a moment where death was not a possibility but a certainty? Where you knew, not feared, not suspected, but knew, that your life would end in a specific way at a specific time? I sat in that darkness and I waited for the fear to come. But it didn't. Instead I felt peace. Inexplicable, impossible peace. I started praying. Not the ritual prayers I had performed for decades. Just talking to Jesus, out loud in the darkness. Jesus, I know you're real. I know you saved me. I know I probably deserve this death for all the people I've killed in your name. If this is how my life ends, I accept it. But please, forgive me. Forgive me for Jamal. Forgive me for everyone I hurt. And if there's any way my death can point someone to you, let it be worth something. I prayed like that for hours. Time became meaningless in the dark. I didn't know if it was day or night. Didn't know how many hours I had left. At some point I fell asleep sitting against the wall. And then, at exactly 3:33 in the morning, I know the time because of what happened next, I woke up. The cell was filled with light. Not the dim bulb. That was still dead. This was different. This was light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Golden. Warm. Bright enough that I had to squint, but it didn't hurt my eyes. And standing in front of me was Jesus. Now, I need you to understand something. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a vision or a hallucination or a fever-induced fantasy. I was fully awake. I could feel the cold concrete under me. I could smell the dampness of the cell. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears, and Jesus was there. As real as you are real. As solid as the walls around me. He looked exactly as he had in my dreams, but more present. More alive. The wounds in his hands were visible, and I started weeping the moment I saw them. He knelt down in front of me, reached out, touched my forehead with his wounded hand. Rashid, he said, and his voice was like water in a desert. Your work on earth is not finished. I have a plan for you. I'm sending you to my people who are still in darkness. You will testify about what you have seen. Many will come to know me through your story. I tried to speak, but I couldn't form words. All I could do was weep. Do not be afraid, Jesus said. I am with you. I will never leave you. What is impossible with men is possible with God. He stood up. The light grew brighter. And then, he was gone. The cell was dark again. But I was not the same. I stood up. My body felt different. Stronger. The fear that I had expected but never felt, now I understood why it hadn't come. Jesus had been with me the entire time. I walked to the steel door. I didn't even know why. It was locked from the outside with a heavy padlock. There was no way to open it from inside. But as I reached the door, I heard a sound. A metallic clang. The padlock had fallen off. Just fallen. The metal hasp it had been locked through was bent and broken, like something had snapped it with impossible force. I pushed the door. It swung open silently. The guard who was supposed to be watching my cell was slumped against the wall, fast asleep. Not unconscious. Sleeping. His chest rising and falling peacefully. I stepped into the corridor. There were 3 more guards between me and the exit. All of them asleep. Not drugged. Not knocked out. Just sleeping deeply like children. I walked past them. One of them was snoring. The main door to the building required an electronic keypad code. I had seen guards enter codes dozens of times but never paid attention to the sequence. I stood in front of the keypad, prayed, and pressed 4 random numbers. The lock clicked green. The door opened. I stepped out into the streets of Kandahar at 4 a.m. The city was silent. No patrols. No vehicles. Not even dogs barking. I walked for 20 minutes through streets I had controlled for years and I saw no one. Then, on a corner near the old bazaar, I saw a man standing under a broken streetlight. He was older, maybe 60, with a gray beard. He was holding a small bag. When he saw me, he smiled like he'd been expecting me. "Rashid," he said in Dari. I stopped. "How do you know my name?" "Jesus told me you were coming. I had a dream 3 hours ago. He said to wait here for a man in torn clothes who would need help. He said you would know his voice." This man, whose name I later learned was Kareem, was part of an underground network of Afghan Christians. There are more of us than you think, hidden in plain sight, worshipping in secret, risking everything. Kareem took me to a safe house, gave me clean clothes, fed me. And within 48 hours, he had arranged for me to be smuggled across the border into Pakistan. The Taliban issued a fatwa, a religious ruling, declaring me an enemy of Islam and offering a reward for my capture or death. My face was on posters throughout Kandahar. My brother Hamid personally swore he would kill me if he ever saw me again. But I was free. Let me ask you something. If you're still watching, if you've made it this far in my story, I want you to think about this. What would you be willing to lose for Jesus? Your reputation? Your comfort? Your family? Your life? I lost all of those things in a single week. And I would do it again without hesitation. Because what I gained was infinitely greater. In Pakistan, I connected with a ministry that works with Muslim converts to Christianity. They taught me, discipled me, helped me understand the Bible I had only begun to read. And then Jesus spoke to me again. Not in a vision this time. Just a clear, undeniable conviction in my spirit. Go back. Go back and tell my lost sheep about me. Go back? To Afghanistan? Where I was wanted dead. Where simply being a Christian could get me executed. Yes, go back. And so I did. For the past 5 years, I have been secretly returning to Afghanistan multiple times a year. I move between safe houses. I meet with Taliban fighters and commanders who are disillusioned, who feel the same emptiness I felt. I tell them about Jesus. I give them Bibles. I baptize converts in hidden streams and basements. Do you want to know the most beautiful thing? 43 former Taliban members have given their lives to Jesus through this ministry so far. 43 men who used to persecute Christians are now risking their lives to follow Christ. Some have been caught. Some have been killed. But the gospel is spreading in places where people said it was impossible. I can't tell you exactly where I am right now. I can't show you my real face. The reward for my death is still active. But I can tell you this. I am more alive now than I ever was as a commander. I spent 12 years killing for a God I thought demanded blood. Now I spend every day risking my life for a God who shed his own blood for me. I used to think paradise was earned through jihad. Now I know it's a free gift received through faith in Jesus Christ. I used to think power came from fear. Now I know true power comes from love. If you're watching this and you're Muslim, I want you to know, I'm not your enemy. Jesus is not your enemy. He loves you with a love that is bigger than any human teaching or tradition. He died for you. He rose for you. And he's calling you by name just like he called me. If you're watching this and you're a Christian who thinks your life is too comfortable, too safe, too small to make a difference, I'm telling you, Jesus wants to use you for something greater than you can imagine. The question isn't whether he can use your life for his glory. The question is whether you're willing to surrender completely to his call, regardless of the cost. Before I end this testimony, I want to ask you to do one more thing. If this story has impacted you, if something in your heart is stirring right now, subscribe to this channel. Share this video. There are millions of people who need to hear that Jesus is alive, that he still performs miracles, that he still breaks into impossible situations and sets captives free. I was a captive to religion, to violence, to emptiness. Jesus set me free. And he can set you free too. My name is Rashid Khan. I was a Taliban commander sentenced to death. And Jesus Christ gave me a second life that I now spend pointing others to him. If he can save someone like me, a man with blood on his hands and darkness in his past, then there is hope for anyone. No matter who you are. No matter what you've done. No matter how far you think you've gone. Jesus is calling your name. Will you answer?